T146, your SMS line at Metropole TVKE across your social media platforms. I am at Kenya Geshimba. This is your economic review. Now, Kenya Union of Sugar Plantation and Allied Workers, KUPSAL, is raising concern to the disarray that some of the public sugar companies find themselves in after the Ministry of Agriculture started the process of handing over the farms to private entities. Now, General Secretary Francis Wangara has raised concern that the situation is getting out of hand as the chief executive officers have to seek consent and approval from the Ministry of Agriculture, a factor that is causing delay in the handover. He says that while the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya disbanded the boards to give room for a leasing process and a handover the management to private entities, the ministry officials are delaying approval and implementation of significant programs and financial obligations, thereby paralyzing some key functions of the millers. A move, he says, might lead to further loss of public funds. Now, question being, was privatizing the public sugar millers the best option for the ministry in this quest to cut down the endemic losses witnessed in the industry? And I'm going to pick it with you, Joanne, this morning. Was this the best way out for the government in this loss-making entities?
Okay, I think that the best way out for the government.
Yes.
I think the manner in which it was executed or how it's been executed could be a problem, because if you choose to privatize, then you must completely eliminate yourself as government from the process of running and how the running is being done, and various aspects of the business.
Yes.
So for me, it was the best way forward, but maybe the how the process of execution or the process of privatizing is what could be a challenge, or the challenge, and government needs to review or revise how that is being done for it to be a success story. Basically, that's my thought about it.
Pretty much. Abraham, let me come back to you on that as well. I mean, we have spoken about how the government has been trying from time to time to actually raise the sugar millers in the country, the public-owned ones. It looks as if that the tax force report that was released late last year really gave us a way out, privatize all of them. Was that the best way out? Yes.
Sugar production, just like any other production, it's about efficiency.
Yes.
Because for a long time we have known that the sugar we import actually is cheaper than the local one.
Yes.
Even if you add all the duties that you're supposed to add by the time you get it here. So it only means that our production process is not as efficient as it should be, and it's not as cost efficient as it should be.
Yes.
Now the move to lease was brilliant. As you can see, somebody somewhere is frustrating it. But I can tell you here for free, that is just delaying pain. I think that is going to happen. You saw the other day, the tea industry, through a stroke of the law, has completely been transformed.
Yes.
So even this is going to happen, and ditto to other sectors. It's going to happen sector by sector by sector, because for the sugar farmer, all they want is that they have their cane, they supply it, and they are paid. That is all they want. Remember, we do not even satisfy our local demand for sugar. We have still not been able to produce enough sugar for Kenyans.
Yes.
We still import by design. So we don't have a market problem. We have a production efficiency problem, that our sugar is not being produced as efficient as it should be. Now, if you put a leasing company, the company is paying the government a lease payment for the use of the infrastructure and for the access to the nucleus. That company wants to make money, so they'll bring down their costs. They'll probably raise the price with which they buy the produce from the cane produce, and they will make it efficient to produce, so that the price of sugar starts falling, so that they can be able to compete with the sugar that we import.
Yes.
So by and large, that will have the effect of now sorting out the problems that we have in the sugar growing belt, especially in Western, going all the way to South Nyanza, and now coming down the belt, made up Transmara, that whole belt. We need to sort that out. But it can only be sorted out if we integrate efficiency. But now you can see that simple approval is being withheld. But to me, those are just teething problems. The major decision has already been made, privatized, because that is normally the hardest one to do. Because since that has been done and has been signed off by the CS, those ones, the people who are laying those can be dealt with. But the issue here remains that the farmer, out of this whole process, will be better off than they were before.
Pretty much. Arnold, let me bring you in on this. You saw that Sugar Task Force report that had a raft of recommendations for the government, but it seems the Agriculture Ministry took the privatization. Best way out for that sector, for that industry from the government?
First of all, let me mention the commodities market is extremely important as far as Kenyan economics is concerned.
Yes.
And when I see from time to time state institutions being privatized, it's a bit disappointing at times, because it simply means that as government, is it that we don't have professionals who can run these institutions well? I don't know. Probably that's a question for a different fora. But at the same time, it looks like it was the best option on the table as far as history of running this organization is concerned.
Yes.
So the two options which normally come about when such transactions are going on is the profit motive versus the social impact aspect. When an organization is being run by the government and it's actually obtaining the objectives of, maybe if it's a farmer bringing in sugar and they're being paid, as Abraham mentioned, then it affects the economy twofold. Number one, it affects the economy in terms of the social impact it has in that particular environment, and number two, it has a positive economic impact on the farmer who's brought in the crop.
Yes.
Now, when you start to privatize, most private organizations focus mostly on the profit element. So in the short term, it looks like it was a good option on the table, but in the long term, we really don't know what the private organization is going to be doing, how they'll be handling the farmers, how they'll be paying them, the payment cycles, and so on and so forth. So it's a catch-22 situation, but it looks like the option on the table for privatization was the best option on the table.
All right, Amunga, let me bring you in on that as well. And your question around this area is going to be, well, is management, Amunga, solely to blame for the running down of the government-owned sugar millers? Is there anything that we're looking at? Or it looks as if we've just all agreed that management has been the problem over time?
I want to say this, Simba.
Yes.
When you talk about sugar touches on my heart, because I come from the growing region. I was educated by money from the sugar industry.
Yes.
Anything that I can blame the Jubilee government, let me just say the government in this country is running down the sugar industry. My God, we people, I don't know what to say. Let me say this anyway. A few days ago, we were in a place called Matungu, where we were burying the area MP. Matungu is actually in Mumias sugar belt.
Yes.
And when you were there for the burial, what I want to tell you is what really is the answer to what you've asked me. The people of that area stood up and started questioning, because the government was there, Deputy President was there. They said, what are you doing about our industries? Why are you privatization, making them profitable? And the Deputy President stood up and he said, as a government, we have been thinking about Mumias. We are going to give free shares to farmers and to county governments in the sugar belt region, run those sugar industries. You know, that's kind of privatization, of course, what we're talking about. And what the leader from that region is called Musalia Mudavadi. He's the leader of the ANC party. He stood up and asked, how do you give shares to a broke company that is already on its feet? You give shares to a company that's not doing well. You know, it's like laughing at us. Let me say this. A few days ago, we saw a letter circular coming from Uganda, which was saying that Ugandan government has been allowed to import sugar into Kenya, to export sugar into Kenya, and it was in big metric tons. Now, what we are simply saying is, somebody somewhere is killing the sugar industry purposely so that others can import sugar into this country. The issue about privatizing, making those farms private, is nothing to do with even private. The truth is there's not even sugar cane. Farmers are no longer growing sugar cane. So what is happening is They want to give licenses to private individuals to go and bring sugar from Uganda, from Mexico, from wherever offshore, and we shall see imported sugar flooding our markets as our own local industries die. Let me say this, it is unfortunate, it is immoral, it's ungodly, and somebody in government is sleeping on their job, killing our local industries, and one day Kenyans will ask questions. Today they may not know, Kenyans may not know that their industries are dying. They live by faith, as I said. They live optimistic like my panelists here, my fellow panelists. That's not how they live. Things are not going to get better when our policymakers are sleeping on the job. That's what we must need to correct. And as was it Adam, my fellow panelists, who has said, it's like we have no professionals. We have no people who can run our industries and factories. That's where we go wrong. Can we think of a different way of doing things? That's my take.
Pretty much, John. Let me just bring you back, therefore, on this as well, as we summarize this. Well, it looks as if, therefore, the way out for the sugar industry is to privatize. But, John, there are a lot of other government entities in this country. You have to start from Kenya Power and go all the way down to any other government entity that you might think of that are non-performing. Question being, why is it very difficult now for us to move at first, as we have moved in the sugar industry, to make sure that they are privatized?
I think it is because, what's his name? One of the colleagues mentioned that government has a social
yes.
obligation also,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So you have to look at the bigger picture in terms of the social aspect of government as you privatize or bring other institutions. So we haven't seen successful privatization yet. So we need to see a successful privatization of an industry or an institution, and then now move from that and replicate that to other public institutions. So I think there's a need to balance between the social and the profit angle of these institutions, so that there's a balance in all those perspectives. So first and foremost, let's see a successful privatization, and then now we can say, okay, this is done successfully. Now, can we use the same concept, the same principles, the same policies, and move it to this other industry?
Yes.
For me, let's first of all see a success story, and then we can move it to another industry. In terms of what Peter was talking about, the sugar industry and all that, the problems that are there, I think that we've seen areas where there's been private organizations also working with government,
yes.
like the tea industry,
yes.
and there's been success in that. So I don't think that the privatizing of an industry is evil in its perspective. There's been success in the tea industry, and I think we can replicate some of those things and see how we can bring them in the sugar industry and other industries that are there. So it's an issue of picking success and replicating it in other areas and seeing how we can be able to progress in those kind of areas. That's my assessment.
All right, Arnold, just before I cross over to Abraham this morning, it is 2021. Should we be talking about the business of the government being in business?
Okay, so basically, as far as government business is concerned, I think the sugar industry, as Peter Munga has mentioned, has been ailed by a lot of imports,
yes,
which has been detrimental to the local industry.
Yes.
However, as far as other businesses are concerned, other parastatals are concerned, other arms of government are concerned, it's in the best interest of the government to simply improve the quality of services which are being availed by these particular entities and have certain standards have certain professionals who are working in these particular industries. I think for me, privatization should be the last resort as far as government is concerned. Simply because, as what I mentioned earlier, social impact versus profit motive.
Yes.
As far as if the government can improve the quality of services being offered by parastatals, I think we'll be in a good place. The aspect of privatization has come as a last resort for some of these entities, simply because years on end, some of these institutions government have been pumping money, but the effects have not been seen. The improvement has not been seen after the government has pumped in cash. So from where I sit, I feel that the government should simply improve the quality of services being offered by the various parastatals.
Pretty much. Abraham, Mamunga, I'm going to bring you in so you can clear for us this conversation. Abraham, we do have a privatization commission in this country, for crying out loud. I mean, when you look back at them, and then you look at how many government agencies are not performing, you know, ask yourself the question, what are they doing? Why are we not questioning that side as well?
Number one, I think we should not demonize private enterprise.
Yes.
Private enterprise is a good thing.
Yes.
Number two, Privatization Commission is an organ of government just like any other.
Yes.
But just like an hospital, for you to get well, you must come to hospital. You know, the hospitals exist and there's still people sick out there.
Yes.
So the process by which people go, you know, you have to go to them and say, or put up your case that we want that this needs to be privatized. Now, yes, they've not been very successful in doing whatever they're supposed to do. But I think it has to do also with the Privatization Act, the processes that are involved in that act. And,
yes.
and I think it's currently under review. Because there are a lot of hoops that you have to... That's why you see they're hoping to do the leasing, because leasing is a shorter way of going towards the private enterprise. It's almost midstream. You lease, now then when you are leasing, now you can start fighting towards getting it fully privatized and,
yes.
owned by somebody else.
Yes.
Does the government have business being in business? Only for strategic reasons. And if you go back to 1963 when we got our independence, government went into everything. Because the strategy then was interventionist. That people had just come from a slave master where we had a colonist of us.
Yes.
So government had to get in and show you that if you invest in tourism, if you invest in coffee, it works. So the thinking then was that government was doing it so people could see. It was almost like a pilot. But then again now, we have a challenge where probably we've not kept checking that mandate to see that it has expired.
Yes.
There are sectors that the government should not be in. I don't think we can exhaust that debate here, but that is for sure. So it is for us to sit and do an audit and decide. Government needs to stay in ABC and needs to get out in EFG.
That's it.
Because we only need to government needs to stay in sectors that are strategic to it. That sectors that if somebody else controls, then they threaten the very sovereignty of that government or that nation. But things like sugar production, I don't think the government needs to be in it,
Yes.
with all due respect.
Yes.
Production of food, somebody else can do. But now when you go to things like energy, even if government exits, then you have to have a very strong regulatory environment. That's why you see EPRA is being strengthened every day.
Yes.
So in a nutshell, there's nothing wrong with private enterprise. In fact, private enterprise has been shown can deliver and even private enterprise with good regulation can deliver even the social mandate of government. They can. Because remember, the government is the referee. It can say, for example, that 10% of your profits shall go into the local area. Take it or leave it.
Yes.
You know, the law is not for discussion, the law is for compliance.
Yes.
So we can have a private enterprise come in and do their thing because they do it better than all of us.
Yes.
And then on top of that, we layer it with whatever social objectives we want to put on them, for as long as it is not onerous to an extent where it defeats their profit motive,
yes.
or injures it to an extent where it's not profitable for them to invest. So if we can match that, then government will be left to put its resources in those strategic areas that it must stay in. And by getting out of this, it also sucks in, it will plow back a lot of money back to treasury because there'll be sales. And overall, the economy, there'll be a boost. So for me, I think we can all win. But we need to have an honest conversation of where it's not working.
Yes.
Privatization Commission is not probably doing as they should because of the enabling environment and the enabling legislation,
yes.
which is under review. These industries all are bedeviled by their own problems. Yes, government is a very easy victim to go to. But there are also other reasons why they perform for each industry that performs. So if we can be able to do that and proceed, especially in the agriculture sector, and proceed towards this privatization for most of them, where government doesn't need to stay, then I think we'll be better off.
Pretty much. Peter Munga, can you take 45 seconds and help us clear this conversation, because I'm getting told we only have a minute.
Yes, I want to say this. The problem with our government is that we have people in government who want to do business also privately. And that's where the disconnect comes. When we have our leaders also involved in private practice, when we have our leaders in the executive, the ministers, the cabinet secretaries, the governors, I don't know, the last speaker, I didn't get his position, but most of them, you discover that they are in government positions, but they're also doing private businesses. They are planting maize, they are also importing sugar, they are doing all these things, and that is what the conflict of interest is. Now, whatever laws we come up with, Kenyans have known how to circumnavigate those laws and go around them. What our farmers in Western Kenya need is motivation. And only government, not a privateer, not a profiteer, can give them. It's government that can motivate farmers. It's government that can come up with laws that can protect sugar farmers. It's not a person who comes in to make a profit. And finally, I can say without any shadow of doubt that indeed our government has failed. There's very little confidence that our farmers have, whether sugar, whether tea, whether coffee. Most of these things are down because our government is also doing business with us, and that must stop if we have to move forward. Thank you very much.
Pretty much. Let me say this. Arnold Ngasale, Joan Maneki, Abraham Mavogo, and Peter Munga, thank you very much for taking your time this Friday to speak to us here at Metropole Television, and that's your Economic Review this morning. Good morning.